Thank you for tuning in to watch our Invest Greater Fort Lauderdale 8th Edition Leadership Summit. You're about to watch panel number 2, From Policy to Place, Creative Incentives and Use Cases that Broward Leaders are Implementing for Intentional Growth. And if you enjoyed this panel, subscribe for more. We're bringing you leadership conversations from CEOs from across the country, one city at a time.
Well, good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Todd Holt. I am Vice President of Business Development with the Greater Fort Lauderdale Alliance. Thank you to CAA for the opportunity. Today's panel is called Policy to Place, Creative Incentives and Use Cases Broward County Leaders are Implementing for Intentional Growth. We all know Broward County has seen a significant growth in population, wealth migration, company relocation. There's some camps that think development is just a natural progression, that we're merely reacting to it. But as we'll hear today, that's not the case. We're actively engaged in shaping it, from restructuring public assets to creating incentives to developing policy, etc. But of course, we couldn't have this discussion without this distinguished panel, which really needs no introduction, but I will. We've got City of Sunrise Mayor Michael Ryan, City of Hollywood Mayor Josh Levy, Mayor of Hallandale Beach Joy Cooper, and Carolyn Francis Royer, which is the Chief Housing Administrator for the City of Miramar. Good morning. So I'll start by asking a quick and easy question, and we'll start by looking back, and then we'll talk a little bit about the present, and then we'll look to the future a little bit. But looking back, and as of right now, what would you say has been your number one tool for attracting investment in your respective city? Please, Mayor Cooper.
Ladies first. Good morning, everyone. Attractive tool. Well, we had set out, I had set out with an initiative to actually update all our public assets. Obviously, we work with developers, but we know our infrastructure is vital. About 8 years ago, we put forward a parks master plan. Our city's 100 years old, and understanding place, entertainment, quality of life, that was one thing our city could control. We went to our residents, we passed a $54 million bond and redid every single park in our city. So, yeah, I think at the time there was Moonlight came out, and it was very tiny because of the inner city parks being neglected. But we're finally seeing a great result of actually that catalyst and developing redevelopment around our parks with infill development. And just really proud. That's one thing I think all mayors take pride in. Absolutely. Understanding we have to control and update our infrastructure to make sure we have, set the table for redevelopment and fill redevelopment.
That's a great answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Ryan.
As Mayor said, it's really about partnerships, right? The way we've been able to catalyze, and I think that's really the operative word of why we're all gathered here, right? We want to catalyze change and investment. For us, it's been a series of factors. One, like parks, we did the same thing. We went out, over 70% of the voters adopted the bonding, and then we delivered, right? Second, investment in infrastructure. You have to have the attitude that we're going to take our public wealth and we're going to invest in the infrastructure to be able to set the ground to attract investment. Third, you have to change your mentality. I think we can all kind of agree that if you go back 20 or 30 years, there was a sense that investment will just come, right? We're attractive, we're South Florida, but you see amongst these mayors and the partnerships that have been developed from the seagrass to the sawgrass, it's really been about being active in your attitude and inviting changes, whether it's to your land development code, to your zoning regulations, to working with the partnerships, and having an attitude of, yes, we're going to be able to deliver on this and be imaginative. So it's a combination of factors, all of which are partly, I think, rooted in partnerships.
Yeah, please. Yes.
Good morning, everyone. Shout out to the City of Miramar and our leadership. All right. So for for me, from my perspective, it's kind of intimidating being among all these mayors as a public administrator on the front lines. But it's along the same line. It's strategic partnerships. That is one tool that has worked very well for local governments. So I think the partners, they bring their resources, they bring expertise, and that is one thing that makes our job a little bit easier because we have limited funding. We're not the private sector, even though private sector is also struggling in the economy. But for local government, I would say strategic partnerships is the one tool that works well for us.
Yeah, and then the mayors and other folks here said a lot of things that are obviously correct. We look to attract investment through placemaking, through quality of life investments. Hollywood, for example, passed a bond a number of years ago where we're also restyled and refreshed our parks, golf courses, new public safety headquarters for our police department, and investing back into the infrastructure and the streetscapes that make places attractive, that then bring in and attract the private investment. On the other end of it, as Mayor Ryan indicated, the regulatory side of things, we want to make sure things are streamlined. People want predictability. That when they come into a city, they know they can get their plans through. So we've invested in modernizing our building permit system with new software, hired more people, built out a whole new building division and the associated development services departments, because developers know, and cities, get reputations. If a city is stained with the reputation of you can't get out of plan review and you can't get out of site plan approval, the investment is just going to skip you and not even look at your city. And so we've done a lot of work in modernizing the systems, and as Mayor Ryan said, and Mayor Cooper, I know, has done for decades, is we really are front and forward as mayors. We welcome the investment partners to come into the city and meet with us directly and know that we're there to help them give concierge personal service. They're not just going to get stuck in, as a number in building permit review and feel like that's where they are. No, there's a personal relationship. They have our cell phones, and we attract them through our openness and the welcome mat that we put out there.
Right, and I'll keep it with you. And as we talked about, and we all know, Broward County, we're mostly built out, and we know that infill and redevelopment is significantly more complex than greenfield development. We know it's more costly, it's more time consuming, et cetera. Do you see an overarching theme of something that government is doing specifically that they could do differently? And you each touched on it, but if we could explore a little further, that would be great. And I'll leave it with you, Mayor Levy.
Look, on infill, there's always a friction between what was there and what is there now, meaning that the neighborhood as it is, whether it's a collection of single family and multifamily mix, and the new type of investment that we know is prevalent and we're seeing all over South Florida, which is multifamily. And it could be on, lower neighborhood scale, 3-4 stories, but to that neighborhood that's around there, it's a shock. And so one of the things we've done to make infill less friction is to again improve our site plan process and require the infill partners to reach out to the neighborhood on the early end to get feedback on the early side, so that the process of approval is not delayed with late stage reaction by a neighborhood. Right. I think that goes a long way to having everything be smooth, both for the city, for the elected officials sometimes, and for the applicant and for the neighborhood. So that's an example of, and through mixed zoning,
right.
And laying down the mat in a way that, again, gives you that path forward with reduced friction.
Thank you. Mayor Cooper?
Wow. Full disclosure, my background is in business. So when I first got elected and I had the first developer come in and meet with me, I said, why are you here? Why aren't you talking to your neighbor? But I actually despised the growth management process, and I'm going to say it out loud. So I think it was too long. It's too arduous. I have a desire to understand that development at some point becomes organic. So I went out and about, and as mayors do, I actually kind of stole a blueprint from Miami and said, what are we going to do? And I brought forward form-based codes, made it quite easy, quite streamlined. Density isn't a bad word. Hallandale Beach, I believe, still is the most densely populated city at 43,000 and 4.4 square miles. So we know how tough it is. So we put in a great blueprint for development. I don't have a problem. I don't need to see every development. I don't need to see every site plan, but we do have that same process. Go meet your mayor, your neighbors, go work with staff, and let's get it done. Time, money, and turnaround. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
So,
Thank you.
thank
Mayor-
you.
Mayor Ron.
Okay.
Please, yes.
Okay. So I know infill can be a little arduous for developers. It's on a smaller scale, it's very expensive, but I think local government, from a planning perspective, can ease the process by offering flexible zoning and also offering infrastructure assistance to reduce the cost. And once the developer has a certain level of certainty that, okay, this is going to go through the approval process quickly, because of course time is money, I think infill can be viable for certain communities. And for other communities, maybe redevelopment on a larger scale may be better. But even here in South Florida, communities are different, not one size fits all. So, you know, it depends.
That's a good point. Good point.
Yeah, I agree with everything everyone said, but one thing that's critical is you have to have the staff attitude and the vision to participate up front. I'm fortunate the city manager, assistant city manager, our deputy city managers here, and it begins with the attitude that we really developed after the '08 collapse, and that was we needed to compete. We needed to compete with our neighbors for the best product that we could deliver and the best systems. So the first thing you have to do is you have to say, all right, we're here and we want you. Second, you have to stop as city government and think about what is the developer facing? What is their challenge in assembling infill, right? And once you begin to understand that, you can actually participate in it. We know that we see from these old shopping centers, these Winn-Dixies that have collapsed, or BJ's and things like that, very difficult to work with, right? Because it's tired infrastructure, the configurations don't work. You may have lease buyouts you have to deal with amongst the tenants. And when you start to understand the factors that they go through and what it takes to assemble, then you can participate, right? Develop the partnerships with the surrounding properties, try to engage, get people to meet way up front, and show that it's part of our vision, so that, as was being said, right, the developers want to know that they're not going to spend all this money on design and process and then find out city management team hates it, right?
Right.
So being upfront, but until we as city government change our attitude and really understand it from the perspective of those that are trying to provide investment, what are the factors they're facing, we will never be able to fully participate. And I give credit to all the staffs that have really changed their attitudes to invite that across the county.
No, agreed. And I think it was touched on with the first panel. Permitting is key, right? And a lot of times people will say, well, permitting's not an incentive, but it's an absolute incentive. If you're generating, let's say, $2 million of revenue a month, and you're looking to relocate, you know, traditionally you're going to be down 3 months. That's what, 6 million? If we can get you up 2 months in advance, that's a $4 million monetary incentive that we provided in permitting. And we use that quite a bit, and we'll continue to do so, which we couldn't do without you guys. So thank you. So I'll direct this next question to you, Mayor Ron. You recently did an interview with Invest, and I'll quote you here, where you said that your master plan is aimed at transforming, and I quote, tired commercial properties into attractive mixed-use developments. Can you talk about the challenge of that and what process you went through to identify the right partners that shared a vision with the city?
Yeah, long before Live Local, right, we understood that we had these strip shopping centers, right? They're 2 football fields back from the roadway. Folks are traveling at 45 miles an hour if they're doing the speed limit. They can't be seen in the businesses. We've set up, foliage requirements that makes it even harder, and they're failing, right? And so we had to really say, okay, why are they failing? What role do we play? And then what are the impediments to converting that? What do we have to do? You know, we began working with the shopping centers that were tired and were getting on the way out. But we had to be careful not to pick the first thing that came along, right? Because you have to look at it holistically. I'll just give one example. We have University in Oakland Park Boulevard. There was an old BJ's there, and there was a charter school that wanted to come in and take over. And of course, their data was, hey, we drive so much traffic. It's going to be great for the community. Well, if anybody sat in a car loop, you know you have one goal get your child and get the hell out of there, right? I'm not stopping at the dry cleaners. I'm not stopping at nothing. I came early to get this spot and I'm out. So you have to look at it and not get caught by that and say, this is not going to fit what we want. Now, what we ended up with instead was a rental development that has now catalyzed all four corners of Oakland and University, a really tough area. And there are all these other examples where you say, look, we're going to participate in the assemblage at Sunset and Sunrise Boulevard. For decades, it's been low income and nothing is moving. The private market can't move it. That's our role, right? That's the fulcrum we all play in incentives. And so once you identify and then say, what is the vision long-term? How can we catalyze and allow a return on investment for everybody as long as we can get out of the way?
No, thank you. Thank you. So Mayor Cooper, you are next. And I've got here Hallandale Beach, and I didn't know this, 4.4 square miles, FYI. So I know you guys are exploring a city hall complex with a public-private partnership. Can you talk a little bit about that process and how the city was able to determine what assets were best to leverage?
Great. Well, we are actually, and I need to take a step back, really going back to our parks and our public assets. And about 10 years ago, I had a mindset of we're sitting on untapped assets that need to be leveraged and partnered with. So we had our first P3 with Related, who actually built a fire station for us and a 3-story beach facility behind the beautiful beach ball and our beach. And we've leveraged that. And we actually have gross revenue coming from that through our partnership. And that has been my mission, leveraging these parks, leveraging what that asset is to bring in partnership. Our city hall flooded. Well, everything's flooding these days. It was built. It isn't that old, but we need to expand. How are we going to do that? With tapped revenues, money. That asset, we've actually partnered with ULI, and we're putting together a blueprint for about 16 acres, including the post office. So while we're in our infancies, I've been really educating myself, and I got to give kudos to my mayor here, Levy, who has been in the heat of a P3, and I know how complex they would be. So we're looking at leveraging that and what part, even what model of a P3 we want to either create affordable housing, to have, whether it's an office complex, and really tie into a civic center that will allow us to redevelop, not take too much money or equity out of our city, but to create a real legacy product that will become a center point and a vocal point of our community while still making some money for everybody.
Right,
So
right.
yes.
Yes.
So that's one of my goals.
Well, thank you.
That and flooding, right?
Yes.
So
And we'll
real
segue
sexy
to the
infrastructure stuff, right?
to Mayor Levy next. So I understand the city of Hollywood, and we can see it, right? Anytime you drive through Hollywood, you can see all the development and a great job. And I see Pompano Beach here too. Always use them as an example of a great job. But can you talk about, you guys have identified 1,400 acres, correct? That you're looking to redevelop. That's a heavy lift.
Yeah, so he's referring to the Regional Activity Center, which for us is between Federal Highway at the east, Dixie Highway generally at the west, all the way from Sheridan Street down to Pembroke Road. At the heart of it is downtown Hollywood, where we've focused our efforts to attract investment and really create a beautiful urban core for our city that's historically, beautifully located by our city's founder, who 100 years ago was a visionary that actually was one of the first to plan out a city through the City Beautiful movement. Think of Coral Gables. And so at the heart of that area of our city, eastward nearby the ocean, is a beautiful downtown, and it's really unique. And we knew that this is such a beautiful place that we could leverage into attracting a lot of investment if more people discovered it, and we relaxed the zoning, concentrated it along the transportation corridors where things make sense. You transition into the neighborhoods to make the infill easy. Right. But in an amount to, as you said, 1,400 acres. So there's a lot to work with, includes large industrial properties that are available to be assembled and make something happen to contribute more towards the needs of the city today. Could be multifamily development, could be workforce housing. In the Regional Activity Center, one of the reasons why we focus on it as well is we've also been able to attract the Broward Community Rail South, which is a Broward County and FDOT investment into regional rail connectivity all the way, think of downtown Miami and the Central Station down there, all the way up one day to Palm Beach. The first leg for Broward County is Commuter Rail South. Hollywood is designated to be the first station, and that stops right at the heart and the footstep of our downtown. And so to make that happen and to attract that opportunity, that makes the Regional Activity Center a little more regional, if you will, is we worked with, we knew what was coming. We had a study that put us in good contention, and we had public property that we owned. It was an old shuffleboard court. We sold that through a RFP process to a affordable housing developer, HTG, which leveraged already who we had on the property, which was Barry University that had a nursing program there. They built a new multifamily workforce housing mixed income site together with space for Barry University. We built a public parking garage that would set the stage to have a basically facility for a train station to be. And even before the train is even there, we made the hub. We built the station, if you will, along that. And it's already the heart of all of downtown Hollywood. And so it's really great that we can look ahead. And we were able to, because of that investment, actually attract, one of the reasons why we attracted the station to stop at our doorstep was that we already built the station there. Like it was, how could you even skip it if you're FDOT and if you're the FTA? Beyond that one particular site in the train, I just do want to mention that it's played an important part into attracting investment throughout the Regional Activity Center. People who are looking to build towers downtown, residential, know that they want easy connectivity because, believe it or not, we talked about Brickell and how Miami's exciting and everything. The people that are moving into the new apartments in downtown Hollywood, I asked them, who's moving into your building? I want to know. And they say, for example, that people that currently live in Brickell are actually moving to East Hollywood because they've done with the intensity that life is down there, and they love the more relaxed lifestyle that you could say Broward County, I think, has as a whole, and Hollywood certainly shares as well. Last thing I'll say, I don't want to take too much time, but what's great about downtown Hollywood, the Regional Activity Center, we just invested $20 million in a new golf club, redid the Hollywood Beach golf club. You can actually walk to play golf or ride your bike 10 minutes and be at Hollywood Beach, right from where this is downtown Hollywood. So a lot of good bones that we're leveraging, that were envisioned 100 years ago by our city's founder, and we're just now allowing the investment community and people who want to live in South Florida to rediscover how great this location is by providing all the elements that make for a good lifestyle.
Sold. Moving to Hollywood.
Come on down.
So,
Iko, build a new hotel there, will you?
so you mentioned housing, and I'll direct this next question to Ms. Frances Royer in the city of Miramar. You guys recently put together a 110-room, senior center, and you did a myriad of things, right? I believe the city donated land, you had tax credits, as well as some subsidized federal funding. Am I correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Understanding that workforce housing continues, and we're going to dive into this a little further, but for now, understanding that is an issue that needs to be addressed. Can you talk about that process and what that model was for any other cities that may want to do that in parallel?
Sure. So this 110 unit development is a classic P3, going back to strategic partnerships that we talked about before. And one of the things that I like to talk about with anyone about the city of Miramar is that city leadership really has a strong support for affordable housing, and putting this P3 together was one of those demonstration of their commitment. And that project not only took the strong leadership support, but political will, of course, and I'm sure these mayors understand that. Donating the land did have a multifaceted approval process. Of course, the community also talks about, they talk about traffic if you're building this unit, but seniors, they're not really on the road like other folks. So there was not much traffic in the study that's going to emerge from that particular development. But the wonderful thing is the partnership included not just the lender, the lender, The city, there were nonprofits, for-profits that worked with the clients, not just in the development, but with the occupants,
Right.
with the occupants of the unit. And it just made one of those success stories all the more great that you can tell about at every community meeting. This is what the city of Miramar is doing for our seniors, which is one of the most vulnerable population. And working with the nonprofits to get those clients, get them into the units. The city even took it a step further by committing to pay 2 months rent for each unit. And we did that through a combination of our state and federal dollars to subsidize those rents.
Well, I applaud that. Definitely needed. So thank you. So segue into healthcare, we'll talk a little bit, and we heard from Shane Strum earlier, and certainly we appreciate all the investment that our hospitals have made, from Memorial to Baptist to Cleveland to Joe DiMaggio. They've all expanded in our respective cities. And we look at that as, again, a quality of life indicator, but it's also a job creator, right? There's a lot of job creation, a lot of revenue that's generated from our hospitals. But some might argue at the point we are right now that we're over-concentrated with hospitals. Hopefully Shane's not still here to hear me say that. Can you talk a little bit about that and how you look at hospitals and whether or not you look at it as a positive or negative? Sorry, Shane. Yes.
Well, I don't know that you could say you're over-concentrated to the point where we have too much. That's certainly not my experience.
Yeah.
You know that emergency departments are opening up because there is demand for emergency departments with low wait times. That drives better outcomes for people that are in emergency need. You know that the population is aging. It was referenced before, silver tsunami. We're going to have more people that are 70 years old and older, about twice the amount in 10 years than we have today, according to demographic studies for Broward County. And so Shane and company are looking forward, and because they know what's coming.
The population, sure.
And at the same time, that people have higher standards for what they want to experience in their healthcare experience when they're in the hospital. More private rooms, quicker to surgery, so that they don't look elsewhere. I think that's an amenity, if you want to call it that, a benefit to living in Broward County. We have such a robust, ready to go. You don't have to wait 3 months in Canada for your procedure. And so I don't think we're overbuilt at all. If anything, we're forward looking, and let's keep building.
Great answer. Yes, Marilyn.
Yeah, great job. Great job.
So I agree 100%. I think, as Shane said earlier, once the certificate of use requirement was taken off the books, which was really throttling healthcare, that's when we began to really be able to address where, for Sunrise, we felt like we were a healthcare desert. We had all these other great amenities, right? We had the home of the Florida Panthers. I hear they play a little bit here in Fort Lauderdale, but the home is in Sunrise. We have the corporate park, we've got the mall, we have all these great amenities, but we were having to transport quite a distance for our own residents. And so even before you get to the metrics of jobs and the investment, for us, it was a healthcare desert. To credit of Shane and his team, the Baptist group came in. They're building a 100-bed hospital at the intersection of the Sawgrass and Oakland Park. What comes from that, is Shane pointed out, was obviously the jobs that are generated, the hope for the next generation, but it's also the medical office buildings. It's all the routine care. It's more rapid service. It's really building out a community that deserves and must have quality health care throughout the county, again, from the seagrass to the sawgrass. And so through the vision of Shane, his team, other hospital systems, and the belief, at least from our perspective, this is a worthy investment. Not just for the metrics, not just for the jobs, and we can get all that. That's easy. It's quality of life.
Sure.
And so I share what Mary Levy said. You can't have an over concentration, although I'm sure Shane would say at some point, yeah, I have to stop. Give us some help here. But I think what we're going to see in the interim is, far from that, it's going to be the expansion of these medical offices, bringing more specialists, and really providing better care.
Right. Overall, yes.
Well, I was, thank you. And I see one of my dear friends that was formerly working for Memorial and their One City at a Time initiative. And we touched briefly on AI, and I'm so fascinated. And we're talking a little bit about senior living and the demands for that. There is a demand. Come talk to us if you want to develop. But the at-home model and the outreach to have that technology embedded into a development and planning for it and making sure your buildings are, the technology is sound for our seniors to have that care, and the telecare market. It just is such a quality of life and a shift. And you touched on something really important. You know, we have to provide EMS services, obviously traffic. I get kind of tired of traffic. There's traffic everywhere. It's always been the top issue. But I think the transformative nature of what they're doing in our hospital district, yes. You know, in this case, more is not less. It's more. And whatever they can offer in our
Understood.
communities to take that burden, I think it's
We wanna be
really
close.
quality of life.
So we're good, Shane.
I'll just
we'll
add,
stay-
if I
we'll stay
could,
friends. Yes,
one
please.
thing that people don't realize beyond the public, public service that a hospital provides, in this case chartered, by state law, is you're seeing international visitation and international visits for hospital services, and so we're seeing an economic. We're building an identity as South Florida, somewhere where people from other places want to come and get healthcare. Means they stay here. Healthcare tourism. There it is.
Okay, I agree with all the information shared regarding the healthcare industry. But I will just add one small thing is that I believe that the healthcare industry is a competitive advantage in South Florida. It is an economic anchor that other industries can feed off of, like technology and logistics and professional services. And I believe the South Florida community in general can see that as an economic development strategy to bring other industries into the area.
Yeah, I would agree. So my focus, as many of you know, is the life sciences, and I can tell you hospitals are a key component to that. Clinical trials, proximity to market, et cetera. So completely in agreement with you guys. Shifting gears a little bit, talking about the cost of living, from an economic development standpoint, we remain competitive when we're competing with the Northeast, the Midwest, California, et cetera. But we know the difference is the average wage in those locations that do have a higher cost of living, the discrepancy is less than what it is here, right? The gap is wider in Broward County with the cost of living and the average wage. Can you say, if you were able to identify one thing that could be done, whether it be federal, state, local level, that would help offset that or make it more in line?
Affordable housing. Affordable housing. I think we have failed here in South Florida. And whether you run a restaurant or a high-tech business, as was said, even Shane was saying, where doctors are saying, I can't afford to live here. We have an affordable housing problem, and we created this. And let's be really clear. I'm going to give a little bit of history. The Sadowski Trust Fund was developed in 2001, and the idea was from your doc stamps, a portion of that would go to this word trust fund, and it would go to affordable housing. Between 2002 and 2021, the Florida legislature raided that fund year after year and bled over $2 billion out of there dedicated for affordable housing. It's not just the $2 billion, it was the lack of leverage that we would have to be able to bond the markets and build affordable housing. Thankfully, they stopped raiding in 2021, but the amount that's going to affordable housing out of that is about half of what it was before. And we're on the front lines of this, right? So you've had the federal tax incentives have become more difficult to get. The state side of this is not able to incentivize as much as we'd like. Fortunately, we live in a county, the Broward County Commission and staff are committed to providing gap funding where they can. But each of us as cities are on the front line of this. And so I don't think any of us can impact the wage side. But when it comes to the cost side, this is why you see cities, one after another, investing in affordable housing. It is economic development. Whether you run the pizzeria or, like I said, a big company, you're worried about how are your people going to be able to afford to live. You keep losing people. This has become an existential crisis. We are the least affordable county in the nation. Add property insurance and auto insurance, healthcare costs, on top of it all, with all the great things we have, if we cannot provide at the end that needs it the most, or workforce housing, all the way through the 120 AMI and all the others, we are going to get throttled. because we won't be able to expand as far. So the one thing that I would like to see more of is more federal tax incentives, right? So let's get government out of the way. If you're not going to provide direct inputs, stop making them compete for those. At the state side, because there's no real tax issue, there's got to be a bigger commitment to affordable housing, working with our county and our partners in the municipalities. And to the credit of leadership of each of these cities, it is hard to go invest in affordable housing, but it is economic development. You know, we have a 400 unit space going in at Sunset Strip and Sunrise Boulevard. A large portion of that's going to be affordable housing with first look for the Sunrise residents. The really important thing is not so much what that is. It has already catalyzed investment in the surrounding properties, because then you need a grocery store, and then you need all of the support services, the restaurants, and everything else that comes. So for us, we see this as an existential crisis that we play a role in trying to solve, and we need help.
Can completely agree.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
I'd like to add something on the wage side. So I serve as chair of the Career Source Broward Elected Officials Council. It's a mouthful. Shane Strum is one of the folks that are on the Career Source Workforce Development Board. Also representation by the Marine Industries Association of South Florida. Phil Purcell is here. Those two sectors, for example, healthcare and marine, the marine sector, are high wage industries for
Targeted
Broward County.
industries, yes.
And so when we talk about the, elevating the wages side to get people to earn more so they can afford to live here in an easier fashion and prosper, we as Career Source Broward invest as well together with our educational partners in upskilling the workforce. We want to make sure that people have the talent and the know-how about how to contribute to these industries. They need pipelines. Shane explained how he needs healthcare providers and nurses. That's a skilled labor. Phil needs technicians to maintain and refit all the amazing, multi-billion-dollar yacht industry that we so uniquely have in Broward County, centered here in Fort Lauderdale, of course. So I want you to know, everyone here, that we are working. There is an outfit called Career Source Broward. They've got a great dashboard. Heiko here is on the hospitality side of it, wanting to make sure we have a good pipeline there. And so we're looking to develop, the workforce of tomorrow. We recently implemented a AI playbook for small business, so businesses can learn how to leverage AI, maybe become more profitable and more efficient, and help to have small business prosper, because that's 90+% of our employment is through small businesses. So there's a lot that's happening. I encourage you to visit careersourcebroward.com if you're an employer, because we do a lot of matchmaking between employees that you're looking for and employers that have an opportunity to list. And you can also educate yourself through our dashboard and through the AI playbook on how you can, do a better job into filling in those opportunities, improving your own business, and attracting new employees as well.
Right.
Skilled employees.
Yes.
Well, actually, the first response, and at least you touched on it, one of the biggest elephants in the room is insurance. And sadly, we're falling backwards in that fight. And I think that's critical. As far as wages, my colleagues are spot on, right on point, but it still goes, and I thought you were going to go in that direction of zoning and this mindset of affordable housing. It's affordable housing. And people don't realize what it looks like. They think of it's not a dirty word. And, right. And understanding that these are places that people live, work, and play, integral parts of our community. So that dialogue with me started years ago when I started infill housing as the community redevelopment chair in our city. So I think some of those components still need to be talked about. The ADUs, what is that? Why are we doing that? We did that a long time ago. Density isn't a bad thing. It needs to be placed in the right place and have the right resources. I flipped the script. We reduced all our parking requirements in the city. Less parking, more access to transit. Yes. That is the only way we are going to build ourselves out of traffic. We have even a 0.75 unit and micro units, and those types of tools in the toolbox that provide incentives for developers to build. So this isn't, I just got back from U.S. Conference of Mayors. I'm a trustee. This is a universal problem throughout the United States, and everybody's talking about it, but we can't just say, it's not there's a lot of prongs to this stool when we all collaboratively work. workforce, tools in the toolbox for development, transit, Broward, thank God we didn't do a half penny, we did a penny. Yay, Greg Start is here. Thank you all for doing that and moving these transit projects forward. So, but insurance is going to be the big
Yeah,
thing.
it's multifaceted.
Yeah, nobody's talked taxes yet either, but
Right.
I'd like to say
Keep
we just had an earthquake. We didn't have a
Yep.
tsunami. We didn't have a hurricane. We have had an earthquake presented to every municipality in this state, potentially,
Yeah, it's true.
potential. So I'm sorry. Those are my two, those things keep me up at night. So thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Cooper. And I would just add on to your thoughts as far as affordable housing and transportation. For a policy on the federal, state, and local level, I believe affordable housing and transportation should kind of marry because there's so many opportunities in developing affordable housing with transportation corridors so that it reduces the cost of transportation, which is the second largest cost in most households. Right. Working on the front line with clients that are coming to the city for affordable housing, transportation is a really big issue. And I believe if more transit-oriented development is put out through the municipalities, that will ease the burden. It may not solve the problem, but that will ease the burden from people going to and from work so they can work, live in their community.
I have to do a shameless plug.
You go for it.
Actually, our city implemented a cloud bus system. It is the only fully electric fleet in a city. It's functioning. We lowered headways. It's traffic, but it's a half-hour headway. It is interconnecting and it's free to our community. We've also done microtransit and we're encouraging that use. So it is doable with partners, with the penny tax, with Broward County, and those types of implementations in those 4 square miles matter. They really matter. They connect south, to Brightline, they connect to Hollywood. So those partnerships are vitally important.
No,
So
they do matter, and you guys matter.
And
great
we got an
job.
award. We got an award for our cloud just last week for climate
Well,
initiative.
sir,
So-
will you guys please thank these panelists? Thank you.